These Xero shoes are one of the products that inspired me to start this channel in the first place. I just was putting it off for a while because I wanted to make sure that I felt comfortable in front of the camera and that I could compile all of my thoughts about these things, because I have a lot of them. It all started when I rolled my ankle twice while I was working weddings within a pretty tight span of time, and it just wasn't healing. And if anything, it felt like it was getting worse. My Achilles was locking up, and the side of my ankle was so weak that any off center, even a crack in the sidewalk basically, would start to fold my ankle and hurt it again. At a certain point I realized that this, was gonna need something special. So I went to the doctor. They recommended specialty shoes. I tried those. That gave me a weird hot spot in the front of one of my feet, which they told me was based on some genetic deformation essentially in my foot. And I was gonna have to learn to live with it. But I was already in my 30s. If nothing had irritated up to now, how is that possible? But anyway, so then we tried extremely expensive custom orthotics. That was gonna be the answer, that was gonna fix all my problems. And it probably made like a 20% improvement. I then took to the internet and started looking for more fringe options really that might be able to help. And that's when I came across the barefoot shoe movement. I'll admit, at first I was definitely a little skeptical. It seemed a little bit like gimmicky, right? And people around me that I mentioned it to, they definitely didn't believe in it either. But at that point I didn't have much to lose. I ordered in a good handful of brands and eventually settled on the Xeros because they were still flexible and zero drop and everything that a barefoot shoe is supposed to be, but wasn't quite as thin as some of the options that I brought in. And me just starting out, a little bit of padding was what I thought was the right move, and I ultimately believe that it was. So within about 2 weeks, remember that issue, the genetic issue, they can't really fix it, issue with my foot? Yeah, that whole thing went away. It's occasionally popped up here and there, but for the most part, it disappeared in about 2 weeks of just walking around the neighborhood very, very carefully, very slowly. Also, I didn't even expect that my back situation would be better. I have a back issue, and I thought just, working long hours and then having, my back be sore at the end of the night was just a fact of life. And as soon as I started wearing zero drop shoes, my back felt like 90% better after work. That was another amazing thing that I didn't even expect. I wasn't even trying to do, but worked out. And finally, the main source of my concerns, the Achilles and my ankle weakness, also began to improve. Within probably a month or so, maybe less even, of walking around, once again, just very cautious, slow, deliberate walks around the neighborhood, while also watching tutorials online about proper walking and foot movement, trying to implement those things in. My weak ankles started feeling a lot better, and took probably a little bit longer, probably a couple more months, but brought it around to probably 75-ish% improvement in my condition, which is obviously pretty wild and something that not even extraordinarily expensive insoles or special New Balance shoes could do. And as for the little lingering amounts left, I was able to square that away when I came out here to Colorado and went to a great physical therapy business in Boulder. And now my ankle and foot don't give me any trouble on a day-to-day basis. Every once in a blue moon, something might be a little sore or whatever, but basically problem solved. Now with the shoes being so flexible, you can feel as you're walking a lot more intricacies of how your foot is moving, where your weight is placed, all of that, pushing off. Because really, traditional shoes are usually so stiff, they're almost like a brace for your foot. This allows you to feel everything, so you can start feeling what you're doing wrong and trying to correct it. I would encourage everyone, if you're just getting started though, to kind of work your way in slowly. I have heard some people have issues with the zero drop and making their ankle actually hurt at first. I never experienced that. And also the one that would be more up my alley was that if you try to be too ambitious with this, very small bit of rubber between you and the road, especially if you're on a paved surface, it really can wear your feet out and make things worse instead of better. If you go out and you do a short walk and you feel great, next day do some more. I mean, if it becomes apparent that you're fine, then cool. I'm not telling you to waste time, but definitely just kind of dip your toe in the pool a little bit and see where you're at. One thing I did want to warn everyone about though was when you're trying to reevaluate your gait and you're really hyper-focusing on every movement, not to overdo it. I set myself back a couple of times because I was trying to, like, you press down and you toe off and you turn, and like so over focusing on the little bits and trying to be so dramatic with them. So I was like, I know I'm doing it right, that I ended up would aggravate things. So when you're watching these tutorials, also don't go too over the top. If they're telling you to roll off your toe and turn this way and do all these things, try to really gently implement it into how you're walking. Don't go out there and try to go from 0 to 100. Just like I said, not to go and get these shoes for the first time and wear them for 10 hours a day. You know, don't take those different tips and try to really go over the top with them, because I learned the hard way that, you know, too much can be a big problem. The three main aspects of Xero shoes and most barefoot or minimalist type footwear is the low stack height, the zero drop, and the wide toe box. To me, one of the biggest things was that zero drop. That's what made my back feel so much better basically immediately upon wearing these things. The low stack height was great because it was less leverage for my foot to roll and have my ankle become injured again. Of course, that's also the flexibility part that lets you feel where you're going. And I don't know for sure, other than just comfort, the wide toe box feels way better to me. But on top of that, I would imagine the feet being able to splay out more may have logically would lead to more stability as well. So that's what's just great about these, and you know, all the shoes in that type of category. Like I said before, I like that these shoes had a little bit more under you than some other brands. So if you're starting out, which I'd imagine you very well may be if you're watching this, I think this would be the way to go. I think most Xeros are about the same, so if there's a different fashion that you like better, it should really be about the same thing, as long as they're not the boots or whatever. Those are a little stiffer. Also want to say that the grip on the bottom has done me well for a variety of things. I've ridden my bike around the city in these. I went hiking through some pretty thick mud. I got a picture actually of my foot on the pedal after the mud excursion. The only surface that I've encountered that is a little weird is the really gravelly areas that have a hard base under it, and it makes those little gravel bits like bearings basically, and it's just rolling. And that's where I would direct you. I know they have some different off-road soles that have a lot more grip. That would probably be the solution for that. 99% of the time, you're good to go with these. Another aspect has been the durability. I've had these for just a tiny bit over 3 years. I mean, there's like tiny little bit over in the corner here, right where it bends, so it's very logical that that would happen eventually. The upper of this shoe isn't the only thing that's held up really well over 3 years. The sole is really impressive to me as well. Now granted, I'm not running marathons, you know, I'm not wearing them every single day for 8 hours a day, but still over the course of 3 years, I think most random athletic shoes would definitely be showing a decent amount of wear just with casual use over the course of 3 years. I mean, there's certain areas of the tread where the little detail is still on here. I would think if I got 3 years out of this, I could get another 3 probably out of these before they really start to show like bad wear where you need to replace them. If you're dealing with any kind of foot, ankle, really probably just about anything, you know, knee, back, whatever, I really do believe that in a lot of scenarios, these things can help you, especially if you've tried other things to solve the problem and it hasn't fixed it. Obviously, I'm not any kind of doctor or medical professional, so, you know, this is not medical advice, but I'm just telling you, it worked for me, and I've heard the stories of it working for other people. All right, so that's about it. I'm gonna get back to enjoying my new home state of Colorado and enjoying these shoes. See you next time.